Um, Hello and welcome to this YouTube channel. Sorry, this is actually the first time. I'm saying that my name is Marvin Okongo, and today I'm going to help you build a very simple and easy GUI calculator. Using Python. So this project is for everyone: beginners, professionals, intermediates, anyone, as I will be explaining everything, and I mean everything, for you to understand it. So if you will be using it as your school project, you're able to explain every detail of it to your lecturers or whoever is in charge. So I want to waste any of your time. Let's cut to the chase and start coding. Okay, so to start off, we first import Tkinter. So from Tkinter import, from Tkinter import. So what does this do? I said I will be explaining everything, and I mean everything. So Tkinter, which will import, Tkinter imports all the classes and functions from the Tkinter library. Tkinter is a standard Python library for creating GUI applications. It's the only framework built into Python standard library. It's cross-platform, meaning when you have Mac OS, you have Windows, you have Linux, it works on all those OSs. So, sorry, have I talked about a framework? Actually, Tkinter is a kind of framework. So a framework is a structure that you can build software on. It's there so you don't entirely start from scratch, which is very helpful. Imagine starting from scratch to code starting from scratch to code everything. It's very hectic and it's very time consuming. So frameworks are very important. There are very many different types of frameworks out there for your programming needs. Let's say for web development, there's a framework for that. Mobile application, database, there are all those frameworks. In our case, Tkinter is a cross-platform collection of graphical control elements. In others, there are meaning widgets for building application interfaces. So that's all about Tkinter. So let's proceed. Next, we have the root. Root is equals to tk object. Root is equals to tk. Then, sorry, this creates a new tk object which represents the main window of the application. What I mean is, so I will use a main loop in Tkinter GUI application. The event through loop or loop.main loop. I'll just write it here for you. Loop.main loop. Sorry, it's root.main loop, not loop. It is root.main loop. Sorry. So the root.main loop is responsible for handling various user events such as mouse clicks, key presses, and window events. The event loop or the root.main loop runs continuously in the background. So for example, I were to run this code, you will see that my widget application will appear in my screen because of the root.main loop. Yeah, it will appear. So that's what you need it. Without it, nothing will happen. Your code will be okay, but nothing will happen. It's actually, most of the time it's used at the end of your program, but in my case I'll be using it at the start because I need to show you every step of the way what I'm doing and explaining to you what is happening. So after root is equals to tk, what next? We now set our size. As you have seen, our calculator size is very small, So we will need to set size for our calculator. So I will use the root is equals to root.geometry. Then I will set my application size. So let me say 500x. You use an x. I had a tough time understanding when I was learning Python, because I was wondering, what is this x? Am I not supposed to use the asterisk? So I realized it's just an x, like x, y, z. So the x, you use the x here. So this will set the size of the main window of the application to 500 pixels wide and 628 pixels tall. So what next? Let's do this. So we need a title. Let me show you what has happened. So as you have seen, our application size has increased. So 500 width by 628 height, or the tallness of our application. Yeah. So next we need a title for our calculator. We can't have a calculator called TK. No, this is very wrong. So we need a title for our calculator. We use root.title, which I will then set my title to calculator. Then when I run this, you can see it has changed from TK to calculator. So moving on. So after we have done this, we can put in more arguments, like, do we need our application resizable by the user? Should we let the user resize it or not? And the background color. So to do those two, first is the resizing. Should we allow our user to resize it or not? So I'm going to not allow my user to resize it, but to resize it, but you can choose to allow or not to allow. To do this, in my case, not allowing it, you use false. It takes in arguments. I'll put in false and false. So when I run this, yeah, my code is okay. You'll see later on what I mean. Oh, it's not supposed to be in. I made a mistake. So when I run this, you can see I cannot resize my application. But when I set the arguments to true, if I set my arguments to true, you will see that I can resize my calculator to any size I want, my calculator or application to any size I want, or the user in this scenario. But I want to be allowing the user, since it's just a simple application like a calculator, I won't allow the user to resize it. So I'll set it to false, thereby not allowing the user to resize the application. So next thing, I will set the background color. So to do this, we use the root.config command. Then we set our background color using the BG. If you have had time to interact with CSS, you'll be very familiar with this, but if you have not, it's okay. I will teach you how this goes on. So if you've had a chance to interact with CSS or HTML, you can set the width and height of website items, where you can set the width and height of website items where you omit where you use a P. Let's say in our case, if I was setting the width and height, if it were CSS or HTML, I would have done that using a P and set that to width is equals to, but in our case in Python, very similar but quite different, where we will not be using the P, and you just set both the width and height of your application just once. So moving on, now we set the background color of our application. So What color would I like? Just use black. I'm a black guy. Oh, so the black, I like the color black. I'm also black, so yeah, we set it to, I will use a hexadecimal for dark gray, which is very dark, close to black. That's the hexadecimal which represents that color. So when I run this, you have seen our background has changed to black. So moving on. After that, what else? So we have set that. We need a title. We have done our title, right? The calculator. We have also resized our application, and you have changed the background color. So we go to the next step. The next step will be creating a function that, or I can skip that and come back to that later. So I'm going to skip that for now. So for now, I will create the elements for our calculator application. The elements for our calculator application. So first we need the calculator screen. So we'll use an SC value. Use an SC value is equals to, then I'm going to explain this in a bit. So this creates a string or a string object, which is a special variable used in Tkinter to hold string values. So I've actually skipped the part where I will create a function that does operations, so that I skip on to the good part, which is in putting objects into your application. So first of all, we use an SC value and object which will be used to hold string values. These values will be used to store the current value of the calculator display. So after that, we go on to create a variable SC value, then dot set is equals to, so we set this variable to quotes, just like that. This will set the initial value of the string object to an empty string. As you can see, my string is empty. I won't input anything to it. So I've assigned the SC value variable holding the string var object to, I've set it to an empty string. So after that, we need to create an entry widget, which is a single line text box that can be used to display and edit text using screen. So I will create a new variable, screen is equals to entry. Let's write here entry root text there. Text vr, then text vr is equals to, sorry about that, text vr is equals to entry root text vr is equals to, what will it be equals to? SC value, the variable we have just created right now, SC value, then set the font type, the font, which will be equal to Arial. Then I'm going to show you what all this does in a bit. Arial bold. After that, screen So we are actually creating our calculator screen. So we fill it in the application, so it will occupy almost all the length. Then we set the padding x to equals to 8. I'm going to explain everything. Then padding x is equals to 10. So what does all this do? So as I've said, the screen value variable is equals to string var. Creates a string var object, which is a special variable used in Tkinter to hold string values. This variable will be used to store the current value of the calculator display. Then after that, we use the string value.set to set the initial value of the string value object to an empty string. We then create an entry widget, which is a single line text box that can be used to display and edit text using the screen, is equals to entry root text var is equals to sc value font Arial bold. The text var parameter is used to associate the string var object with the widget. So this changes to the variable will automatically be reflected in the widget. The font parameters, I've just set the size of the text. The font parameter I've used sets the size of the text in the widget. Yeah, the font size of the text. So what I mean is this. As you can see, there has appeared a new screen inside our application after I've created it in my code. So moving on, so I've already set what I'll be writing will be seen in this code here, especially this font part. So whatever I will be clicking will be written in my screen in Arial size 40 bold. So after I've input in numbers and everything, I will show you what I mean. So we move on. So before that, you've seen something here, fill.x. Parameter tells the widget to expand horizontally to fill the entire width of the window. So then the iPad for padding. iPad-X, the iPad-X and the paddy parameters add internal padding to the widget, and the pad-X parameter adds external padding to the widget. So I've introduced actually a new word, padding. So padding is creating space around an element content inside of any defined margins or borders. So let's say I'll just write here a capital P. So the area around this P is actually its padding. So I've defined everything here. So I've actually set the iPad X or the padding to 8 and the padding X to 10. There is something. Padding it to 10. I'm missing something. I think I'm missing something. Yeah, pad Y. Yeah, I was missing pad Y. Oh my goodness. So pad Y is equals to 5. Pad Y is equals to 5. That is what I was missing. Oof. That was close. I saw it earlier enough and I avoided very many mistakes. I can set it to 5 or I'm going to set it to 10. So pad y is equals to 10. So I pad x 8, pad y 10, then pad x 10. So you can't really see any difference now because I've not input anything inside my calculator, but you'll see it later on. So let's just move on. So after that, I'm going to create a frame widget, which is a container widget that can be used to group other widgets together. So I'm going to create it right now. So f is equals to frame root background is equals to, I'm going to set it to gray. I'm using too much of black today, but it's okay. You can use any color you want, be free. So you can still see anything. So this code here creates a frame widget. The f is equals to, so the variable f, I've placed the frame widget inside the variable f. So this will create a frame widget. A frame widget is a container widget that can be used to group other widgets together. Then the bg, this is the background parameter, sets the background color of the frame. So I've set mine to gray. So moving on, I'm going now to create buttons, at least starting to get interesting. So B, I'm going to place these buttons inside my B variable. You can name it anything you want. So B, then F. Sorry, what is that? Then F. B, F, I've just place the F frame into the F variable. So moving on, so BF, then text is equals to, so I'm going to start putting items or buttons into my calculator application. So F is equals to text is equals to, I'll start with the addition. Yeah, I'll start with addition. You can start with any button you like, but I'll start with addition. Then text, no, okay, I won't start with addition. I'll start first with the clear. So I'll just call it C. So this will clear anything that when a user has written anything in the calculator, they can just clear everything. So C. Then I'll set the padding of this button. Then padding X is equals to 20. I'll set it to 28. It's just a small button. Then padding Y or paddy is equals to 18. Then I'll set the font color, font type. So my font will be, I'm going to use Lucida. I'll not use the equal sign. Lucida, I'm going to do this a little to 35. Then I'm going to bold it. What next? Then I'm going to explain what all this does. So b.pack is equals to, and then I'm going to align it to the left. So side is equals to left. Then padding X, again I'm going to set some padding X is equals to Okay, there is no issue. Padding x is equals to 18, then padding y will be equal to 5. Then I'm going to bind all of this. Bind I will actually create a function that does this, so I'm going to bind it to that function. I will call my function a button, so I'll bind this to I will call my function click, sorry. Then I'll bind this button to button 1 to click. I'll call my function click so that when the user clicks, it knows what it's doing. So it won't run because actually I've not created the function, but this is the input I'm going to use to create all my buttons inside my calculator. So it won't run because it has some errors. So I'm going to, let me first explain what everything here does. So I've just explained the f variable I've created and input in the frame widget is a container widget that can be used to group other widgets together. The bg parameter, or the background parameter, sets the background color to the frame. B is equals to button, so I've created another variable b, assigned a button to it. So b is equals to button, creates another button, creates a button widget inside the frame with the label C in my case. As you can see, I've said this C will be used to clear everything the user has written. We can just exclude this. Then I think if I run this, nothing. So I'll move on. So I'm going to, okay, before that I've explained what the B button does. It creates a button with the label C. Then the b.pack, adds the button to the frame using the pack geometry manager, which packs widgets in rows or columns. You can use options like fill, expand, and side to control the geometry manager. Then the side left aligns, tells the button to be placed on the left side of the frame, or it aligns it to the left. And the paddx and padY parameters, as you have seen, add external padding to the button. So I'm going to use this to create all my buttons. So I'm going to copy paste it. Copy, paste. I'm going to create 4 buttons. 1, 2, 3, and lastly 4. So my first button will be a C. My second button will be, what will my second button be? A plus. My next button will be minus, then division. So C, plus, minus, and division. So this will be used to create our, this is not supposed to be here. This equal sign is not supposed to be here. Oh goodness. So as you can see, there is an error in the click because I've not, and the solve reference click, I've not created the function yet. So this, I'm going to use this to create all my buttons, so it will still bring an error because I've not created the function. So I'm going to create now the function. I've explained what the f is equals to frame does, the b is equals to button does, the b.pack does, then the b.mind, that was the Tkinter pack. So the b.mind, you see it's explaining everything that the Tkinter contains. So So the b.bind, what does the b.bind do? It has my ID here, so an explanation. So the b.bind binds the click function which we have defined earlier. The b function, I'm going to create it and define it. So which will be have defined earlier. It binds the click function to the left mouse button, or which is the b-1 or the b-1 of the button, so that the function will be called whenever the button is clicked. So I'm going to create that function right now. Let's create a function. Function make our work easy in Python. You can create function anywhere you want, use it anyhow you want. So I will create my function after importing my Tkinter. So I'm going to create it right here. So my function, let's start creating my function. So I'm going to call my function click. So define click or diff click to create my function. Then inside the parameters, I'm going to create an event. I'm going to explain what everything does. Then let's see value. Then text equals to get. I'm going to put an error handling situation here because I can experience errors. So else try try value equals to val then except this is an error handling situation, so except exception as E, right? Yeah. Here capital here. Exception at Z. What next? Print. Oh. Then value equals to no. sc value so I'm going to put an elif statement here, elif text equals to, so this will as you elif text is equals to c, this will be used to clear the field. This will be used to clear the field or the text area. So elif text is equals to c. Sc value will be set to an empty string. Then the screen will update. Then else, my last statement, else the value dot set set this to c value dot get plus the text to that screen update. So I've written too much code here, so I've created my string. So this is my string. As you can see, it has 4 usages already. So I'm going to explain everything, how everything works in this function. Sorry, I've created my function. So I'm going to explain everything, how everything works in this function. So my function is called click. So the function will take an event, objects as its arguments. You can see that event object as its argument, which will represent the event that triggered the function. The global sc value tells the function to use the global variable sc value, which presumably stores the current value of the calculator display. A global variable, what do you know about a global variable? So what is a global variable as I've used it here? A global variable is a variable that is declared outside a given function that is accessible throughout the program unless shadowed. It's often declared at the top of the program, as I've done here. So when we create a variable called text, then assign it event.widget.cget. As you can see, I've created a variable text. I've assigned it this. What happens? This gets the text label of the button that triggered the event and stores it in the text variable. Then the if text is equals to this assignment operator, the equal sign. This checks if the button that was clicked is the equals button. So if it's the equal button, it will do the calculation. Then if the s value dot get dot, if the this is too much content I've written, so if the s value dot get dot is digit function, this what does it do? This checks if the current value in the display is a digit. We convert the string representation of the current value of an integer using the value is equals to value is equals to integer s value. So where have I written it? Value equals to integer s value dot get. So this will convert the string into an integer and stores it in the value variable. So then the else is the current value. Sorry, if the current value is not a digit, the function will try to evacuate the expression that is currently in the display. Then we use the eval function to evaluate the expression in the display. So where is my eval function, sorry. It will be used to evaluate. It will be used to evaluate the it will be used to evaluate the expression in the display. There was something wrong. Yeah, so the s value, then the s value digit, this block of code here, this line of code will concatenate the current value of the display with the text of the clicked button and sets the result as the new value of the display. So the screen.update updates the screen, and that's about it. So after that, we then now create our button. So when we run this code, nothing. What's not happening? What have I done? Let me see. I'm going to use an f.pack. So you can see I had omitted the f.pack. So what does the f.pack, or the pack method, as I've said, is used to add a widget to its parent container using the pack geometry manager, which automatically arranges the widget based on the available space and the desired layout. The pack method can take several parameters to control the packing behavior, such as side, fill, expand, anchor, pad x, pad y, as you have seen I've used it. Then next, after that, so we'll separate this. How will we do this? As you can see, let me run this code one more time. You can see I can input and clear my field. So I'm going to input numbers here. So I'm going to create a new frame. So this is my first frame, as you can see. This is my first frame. I'm going to create a new second frame. So to do that, I come here at the end of this. Let me space this first. Then f is equals to, just as I've done up here, as I've created the frame, I'll also create another frame down here. So f is equals to, I'm just going to copy paste this. So f is equals to frame root. So my second frame will also be gray. Then I'm going to copy paste also this. To make my work a little bit easier. So I'm going, this is the third, 4 buttons. So the first one will be, so I'm going, most calculators start with 9, then 8, then 7, then at the end I'm going to do some multiplication. So when I run this, without using the f.pack, you'll have an error. So I'm going to use the f.pack at the end f dot the fpack. So when I run this, you'll see it inputs. So I'm just trying to emphasize the importance of the pack method, which is used to add a widget to its parent container. So it will add this to the parent container. So if you want another container, we'll have to my code is in a bit of a mess, so I'm going to let me try to separate it and try to make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to copy all this code, all of this. I'm going to copy all of these. I'm having issues with my right click. I'm going to copy that, paste it down here to make my work easier, because it will be very hectic for me to rewrite all that code. Or you can use functions, but I've said I'm creating a very simple calculator. So so 987 star, then 6. This will be 6 5 4. Then at the end I'm going to use a minus. Then here I'm going to input 3 2 1. Then I'm going to use, I've used division, minus, addition I've used, which I'm going to use modulus. So when I run this code, you can see my numbers have been added to my calculator. So when I try to do 3 times 2, nothing, because I've not input my equal sign. So we add another container, we add another widget into our container. So the last pieces, so I've not, remember I don't have the number 0, so let 0 be here, 0. Then I'll want the equal sign at the end. Then what else? I've used multiplication, division, subtraction, addition, modulus. I'm going to change this here, this modulus. I'll make this the modulus, and down here with the module, I'm going to make it subtraction so that it looks a little bit nicer, like that. So I've used 2 subtraction signs. Then what am I missing in my calculator? Let's see. There is addition, modulus, division, multiplication, subtraction, the equal sign, okay, I'm going to create a power 2 sign. So I'm going to assign this, let me assign it here. I'll just use the double asterisk, which will mean the power, like 3 power 2. So when I run this code once again, you can see it's right here. So when I say 2 to the power of 2, it should be 4, which is correct. So this is our simple calculator. You can use it, you can modify it to your needs, however you want it. But yeah, thank you, and thank you for visiting my channel. That's the end of my that's the end of my calculator or my project. A simple calculator, as I've said. More later.